Okay, so here we are, day 11 of National Recovery Month, Many Recovery Series. And I have my good friend, colleague, spiritual soul brother, Michael Dinneen out of Colorado, who is going to be joining me. And if you think about it, a really special day, right? Because today is also the 15th anniversary of the World Trade Centers being attacked and America being attacked, and very, very powerful day in our history that brings up a lot of experiences for a lot of people, and those of us who are in recovery. I think feel particularly grateful for having the ability to work through emotionally what this day can mean for so many people. And so maybe we just take a moment of silence to just remember all of those that we know that were part of that, and that continue to be impacted by it. So Michael, thank you so much for joining me. And I start every conversation the exact same way. What is the greatest gift that recovery has given you toward being the best man you can be?
All right. Well, first of all, thanks, Dan. It's a great question. And that whole, I appreciate the 9/11 piece too. One of my best friends in my life, John Murray, died in the South Tower on that day. And it was, and just thinking about him today, I was thinking about, wow, how this all connects. I was thinking about how when I was driving away tonight, the kids ran out of the house, Samantha and Caden, and they stopped the car and they wanted hugs and kisses. And they were with a little kid from next door, this kid Soren, and he was kind of watching us interact. And I was pleasant to this kid. I was giving him high five, and but it was so good that my son ran up and gave me a big kiss and a hug and said he was going to miss me even though I'm only gone for one night. And I was thinking about Murray. I remember watching him and his father interact, and I remember when they saw each other, they embraced and kissed each other on the cheek. And I remember I didn't say anything to John, but I just remember how impactful it was, that it was just like something I desired so much, was to just be embraced and to just have physical affection from my dad and from someone that I love, just a symbol of that, and not being afraid. Growing up in Irish Catholic culture, it felt like there was a less touchy-feely, I think, than most cultures. And so it was just, I was thinking about Murray today. I was thinking about how his life got cut short, and how much I loved him. And I was thinking about that embrace with him and his father. And I was thinking about how lucky I am to just have two kids that I adore. And even looking at pictures on the flight in of them, and just having my heart fill up with love. So I think in answer to your question, it's pretty easy for me. I could talk forever about it, but to give the 5-minute version is I had very, my relationship with God today is pretty much given to me. It was one of these, God got me to the 12-step program, so that the 12-step program could get me to God. And I had really distorted beliefs about myself, about God, about my relationship. So see, everything I think comes back to this kind of security of who I am. It comes back to this relationship. So when I'm dialed in, which recovery has taught me, taught me how to meditate, taught me how to pray, taught me how to have friends like you, and has brought me pretty much everything good in my life. But it's really, the overarching thing has been learning how to connect and going through a process of the healing of all these distorted images, and coming to a realization that I know 100% is true, that I'm dealing with a very forgiving, loving, friendly God of mercy that adores me and wants to interact with me, is interested in my daily life and all the little things and my thoughts, my actions, and that is interested in helping me get through shame cycles quicker and healing all my distorted beliefs about myself. And as a result of that, I end up being more secure and not needing as much affirmation from the outside or through achievements, through all these things that I've been chasing my whole life in and out of recovery. As this relationship becomes deeper, more mysterious, more friendly, it's freeing. It's like I'm getting over myself quicker, and I'm able to show up and and really, at times, even just truly want to be of service. And it manifests in, may seem like really small ways, but today I looked at the phone when I was done, and I talked to my mother today for an hour and 10 minutes on the phone, just about her life and this trip she took to New York, seeing a bunch of old friends. And I was generally interested in how she was and how everybody was back there in Boston. And so, and just knowing that she loves me and that I love her, and that's all for me. That's like a God deal for me. And so, I don't know what else to say about that. I have a lot to say, but I don't want to go into too much detail. It's just a beautiful thing. And I do have to say, there's a little plug for never getting too far from the rooms of the 12 steps for me, is a lot of times, if not most, I hear the voice of God speaking to me through people in recovery. That I seem to, when I connect with people in recovery, when I sit in a meeting or I'm doing one-on-one work with somebody, or I'm connecting with a guy like you, I end up, something happens and I hear something I need to hear, or I feel something I need to feel, or I contribute something and I lose myself for a second, and it's almost like God shows up. So the biggest vehicle to, it's kind of like God's everywhere, but he's also inside of us. Like the big book says, it's deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. But it seems like when my intention is to show up and be present and to seek and put myself in positions to avail myself to the grace of God, I seem to be more aware of it. And then when it happens, I can see it, I can feel it. So I think that's it. Unless you have any questions.
Well, I want to say that this idea of a relationship with God is a very powerful one, and of course one that can be controversial for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've always appreciated about you is how open and committed you are to your relationship with God and what God has done for you. And the comment you made really made me think of a poem that I heard early in my recovery, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it really has been such a powerful poem toward my own relationship with a higher power. And that is, I sought myself I couldn't see. I sought my God, but God eluded me. And I sought my fellow, and there I found all three. And that really speaks, I think, to what you were saying, is that so often, whatever this thing that we call God is, it comes alive for us through our interactions with other people. And, you and I are not only colleagues, but we're very close friends. And we had a conversation about that last night, and we talked about the challenges that men have being intimate with other men and being close with one another and maintaining that level of closeness and vulnerability and being open about it. And, you know, I think God has some to do with that, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how recovery has impacted your ability to connect with other men. Because what I heard you saying was your relationship with God is really contingent upon your relationship with other people. And I know the level of intimacy I experience with God or higher power is really affected by the level of intimacy and vulnerability I have with other people in my life, and vice versa, right? They really kind of feed off of one another. And so because this is about men in recovery and really exploring the beauty of being men in recovery and the gifts that recovery has given us, can you say a little bit more about that, about men and how men connect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to feel so much shame about about my feelings, and thinking that I was just more of a sensitive guy, and maybe I had more feminine qualities, and I used to just kind of have an image of myself that was as if some of that was like bad, that I was sensitive and that I had some feminine qualities, and that or stereotypical. And I remember asking God years ago, I was like, I am ready to love somebody, I'm ready to move forward, could you please just put somebody in my life? I was basically asking him to put my future wife in my life, because I was sick of like all the taking hostages and all the insanity that I produced in everyone's life, and all the crazy women that I dated. And then two guys came into my life. This guy Steven and this Dave K, both in recovery. And it was sort of like he placed these guys in my life, and it was like we went through so much together around learning how to work through anger at each other, learning how to express our feelings towards one another, learning how to show affection, learning how to pray together, and it's like we sort of almost grew up. And I look in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, holy cow, it's like, what an answer to prayer, because I would have destroyed my marriage like immediately if I didn't have this like learning how to be intimate with other men, all this like kind of crash course on intimacy before I met Jill. And since then it's been, I not trying to put so much on my marriage and on God and other things, that this intimacy with men is so important, because it's guys like you who we read this, we're interested in the same type of literature, we're interested in the same kind of topics, we have similar sense of humor, and it's like God knows I need that. I need some soulmates in this world that know me for exactly who I am. They know all my twisted thoughts. They know my sexual past. They know how I overspend money and how I do ridiculous things at 25 years of sobriety. Accept me for who I am. There's something super intimate, super healing, super like, this is God's gift to you. This is these men. And so less and less do I feel the shame, and more do I feel like we got the jackpot, guys like you and I, like that we were willing to like even look like freaks, or look like guys that just weren't your stereotypical tough guy that can get through everything on his own and look like his shit doesn't stink, and all that. We were, I think, wounded enough and broken enough to be like, hey, like this is who I am, and take that risk, you know? So I think that all correlates back to, I think God gives us the ability to get the courage to have that vulnerability. There's so much connected to it all. Men in relationships, my relationship with God. Also that kind of notion, God the Father, from my kind of upbringing, in Catholicism, of kind of that image of a male figure versus versus God of spirit, you know, God of love. So to work through those images and learn, I can't really put it in words, but there's a lot of healing for me that has to go into, you know, kind of healing the wounds of like what a male authoritarian figure looks and feels like in your life, you know. So it all somehow correlates, but that's a long ass answer to your question.
But it's beautiful. I mean, you and I mean, there's so many nuggets in what you said. I mean, one was this idea of if what you and I share and what we share in the work that we do can help other men who feel really sensitive and really emotional and feel like they're less of men because of that, they could feel a little more comfortable, and they could see two men who are able to do that and who really have come to a place of peace around that being who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what a gift. I mean, and that, imagine being that man hearing that message. You know, I remember what it was like for me when I first heard men sharing that message, and that was the gift, right? And that's one of the ways that God does work through us is we hear what we need to hear. And that idea of not being so dependent upon any one person to fill our needs, and especially for those of us who identify as heterosexual, we're in relationships with women, and so many men put so much pressure on the women in their lives because they're unable to be intimate with other men. Because and a lot of women unfortunately sign up for the job because they buy into it too, that men can't be intimate with other men and whatever, you know.
Right.
So as always, it's just such a wonderful conversation with you. You bring so much depth and wisdom and experience to any topic or any conversation. Yeah, I always want my guests to have the last word. So I just want to say that you know, you are a man who is showing me what it means to love another man, to work through all the fear and insecurity, all the childhood stuff, all the connection and disconnection stuff, all the trauma stuff, and to stay in that relationship and be open and honest, even as 40-year-old men. 40-year-old men learning how to do this in many ways for the first time is so powerful. And, you know, I love the idea of us taking this out into the world and sharing it with others. And we should think more about that. But you're a gift to your family. You're a gift to me. You're a gift to so many. I'm so grateful that on this day, you were able to be my guest, especially just how it all worked out, given your particular connection to this day in our country's history.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Dan. I just, you know, was just tearing up listening to you because it's like you said everything that I wanted to say. I was like, when we were talking, it dawned on me that I thank God for the fact that the streets of New York and the people of New York, the kids that I grew up with, you know, my own family unknowingly, I'm just so grateful that this piece to care about other people deeply and to be sensitive and connect didn't get beat out of me, you know, because I was like, it was like physically like head pounding into concrete, literally, you know, and something in me, I don't know how, survived all of it to get to a point where it's where this actually, like this connection like I have with you, where I truly love you, and is didn't get completely extinguished, like through that process, through all the process of all the trauma, that I didn't fully close up and kill that part of me, you know. So thank God for that, you know, because I feel so grateful in this moment.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother. All right, you enjoy your evening.